So this is a topic I don't typically talk about on my channel as it tends to divide people. It can really infuriate a lot of people, and some people just get generally uncomfortable with the topic. And the things that I like to talk about on this channel are usually just things relating to my own thought leadership and my journey in business and in life. I try to not give any commentary on things that other people do. I don't try to pitch or give recommendations on services. I really just share things that I do myself, or I share ideas on things that I've implemented myself, and I tell you if it's worked for me or if it hasn't. And I've tried experimenting with a lot of different things in life and in business, and this is one of them. So electroshock therapy, it's sometimes referred to as electroconvulsion therapy, is something I've recently began experimenting with my team. And if you're not too familiar with it, maybe you recognize the term from, maybe you took a psychology class in college. I think that's the first time I remember hearing about it. Or maybe you've seen it in movies like I have. So the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe, that's like the electric therapy they give him in the movie. It's a really heavy scene when he's in the psych ward. Or also One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, one of my favorite movies. They also give him, I believe, his character electric shock therapy in that movie. If it's not his character, it's a bunch of them because they're also in a psych ward. But I digress. Anyway, electroshock therapy first became in existence, was created back in the 16th century or the 1600s. I forget which ones exactly, but yeah, it's been used ever since then, less so recently, to treat a variety of usually mental illnesses. So like bipolar disorder, PTSD, shell shock for Army veterans, anxiety, and just depression, things of this nature. And it was really prevalent in the early, mid 1800s into the 1900s, and has definitely become less popular this century. And obviously it's not too popular now, but it's actually still being used today. And that's kind of, I'll tie this into how this relates to my business. So 2 months ago, it was Mental Health Awareness Month, in corporate America, I think across the world as well. So what I did, I have, several, dozens of employees under me. I created a survey asking my employees about their mental health and asking them, are they depressed? Are they not depressed? Anxiety, things of this nature, right? Just wanted to check in with everyone because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And surprisingly, depression was a huge theme with my employees. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I'm happy. I thought my employees were happy. I'm pretty self-aware, or at least I hope I am, but that one flew right over my head. Almost every one of my employees said that they suffered from depression. And in the survey, I also included, a scale from 1 to 10, how much this impacts their work. 1 being it doesn't impact their work at all, 10 being it impacts their work a lot. And there were tens, like pretty much across the board. I think there were a couple that like were in 8s and 9s, but pretty much 10. So as you can see, like, this was an emergency. Like, it was really impacting my team. As we all know, if your team is like overly depressed, they're not productive, like they're not hitting their numbers, they're not performing, and that affects me, that affects the shareholders, it affects the business all the way. Right. So I had to get ahead of this. So I quickly started doing research. I didn't want to, start passing out pills. I didn't want to hit the pharmacy, nothing like that, but I needed to try to fix this for my team. So I actually kind of quickly stumbled upon electroshock therapy. And like you all, I was a little, nervous and apprehensive at first, because I'm like, electroshock therapy, it just seems a little dangerous. It could open me up to liability. Like, I just wasn't too familiar, but I did a bunch of research. I ended up just kind of realizing that it's still a thing. It's not as popular these days, but it's still very much a thing. And I started essentially interviewing clinics to try to find the best one to come in and treat my employees. I ended up talking to like 10 different clinics in the city, some big groups, mostly kind of small mom and pop shops. And the one I landed on was very small indeed. It's comprised of 1 nurse, 1 anesthesiologist, and the head doctor. His name is Milos. Great guy. I've gotten close to him since we started this about 6 weeks ago, I think is when we had our first visit in the office, which I'll get into. But he's a great guy. He's on the surface, he looks a little strange. I'm not gonna lie. Like, he's missing 3 fingers on his left hand. He's blind in one eye, but he's a character. We play poker on the weekends here and there. But anyway, I just had a good feeling about this guy. He was just a straight shooter, and he had a lot of experience providing some electroshock therapy services to corporate workers in particular. And he had a lot of things to say about that. Anyway, so 6 weeks ago, I brought him into the office, and I brought him and his team rather into the office. And the reason I do that, they do have a location in the city, but I'd rather bring them into the office so people don't have to like miss work and go, to the doctor to go get electric shock at like lunch and that kind of thing. Just hurts productivity. Anyway, I brought Milos and his team to the office, and I know what you're probably thinking, like, wow, doesn't this open up a lot of liability for you and your company? And yes, of course it does. So what I did is, even before Milos got to the office, is I worked with my legal team, and I created a waiver, a liability waiver that every employee has to fill out and sign before Milos can administer any electricity into them, right? So that protects me. A few people didn't want to sign it, so two quit. I fired one. But the rest were on board, and I probably should have covered this earlier, but like essentially what electroshock therapy is, like, it sounds scary, but all it is it's electricity being shot through your brain. Okay. And I can put some metrics in, and the way that I thought about it is the way I thought about how much electricity to give each employee is based on that individual employee's percent to quota. Right. So essentially, if they're not even close, say they're like 10% to their quota throughout the quarter, they're going to get more electricity than someone who's like already overachieved their quota. Like, everyone's going to get a little bit of some because, again, the point is to decrease their depression. But the way me and Milos kind of mapped it out is if they're not performing as well, they're going to get more electricity and for a longer period of time. Sometimes it's like a tenth of a second of a shock, and then sometimes it's up to 6 seconds. So anyway, that's kind of how it works at a high level. I'll put some metrics and numbers in the comments below in case you're curious how it kind of works. But yeah, it's been going great. Like, ever since we started that, productivity has been up. We're already overachieved our number for this quarter. So like, I mean, we're still heads down working hard as a team, but like, spirits are up. The reason I'm making this video today is I ran another survey for Monday of this week about depression, and nobody is suffering anymore. Depression just isn't an issue. So again, I'm not recommending this to anyone. Okay, I want to be very careful here. This is just something that has worked for me and my team. Forcing and requiring my employees to have electroshock therapy has been good for them, has been good for me, has been good for the business, has been good for our customers, most importantly, right? So again, just wanted to share that. That's what something that's been working well for me. Yeah, I hope this helps.